Good evening, you're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Azam Khan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Foreign Minister Qin Gang slams the Cold War mentality and warns Washington to keep its hands off Taiwan. A woman is returned from the mainland in connection with the murder of socialite Abby Choi, whose mother is trying to block the sale of a luxury flat. And the government is urged to introduce family-friendly measures, as a survey shows most respondents do not want babies. China's foreign minister has urged the United States to drop its Cold War mentality and work towards common prosperity. Qin Gang also outlined his vision for the world in a 2-hour press briefing in Beijing. Raymond Young reports.
It has been only 2 months since Qin Gang was appointed foreign minister, but he's no stranger to the world. The career diplomat became a household name in the late 2000s as foreign ministry spokesman. The 56-year-old was most recently China's ambassador to the United States, and that hot seat remains vacant since his departure in December. When asked what people can expect from him in the coming years, Qin said the most pressing task is to resume exchanges with the world after COVID. But Sino-US relations remained the elephant in the room, and he wasted no time taking a swipe at Beijing's biggest rival.
We will take it as a mission to defend China's core interests. We firmly oppose any form of hegemonism and power politics. We firmly oppose the Cold War mentality, camp-based confrontation, and acts to contain and hold back other countries' development.
Striking a more conciliatory tone, Qin said it is imperative that the two superpowers mend their ties.
When I was working in the United States, I visited many places. In Los Angeles, workers at the port of Long Beach shared with me how their entire families live off trade with China, stressing that the United States and China should prosper together. Presidents of universities stress that international exchange is critical for technological advancement, and that technological decoupling is a lose-lose and all lose.
But he warned that for Sino-US relations to prosper, Washington must never meddle in China's internal affairs, including the issue of Taiwan. He brandished a copy of the Constitution and recited a line which states that Taiwan is a sacred part of China. Responding to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Qin described it as a crisis and a tragedy which could be avoided, but stopped short of calling it a war. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
A senior Chinese leader has told Hong Kong delegates to the National People's Congress that the next 5 years will be crucial for the city's development. Zhao Leji's statement was welcomed by lawmaker Starry Lee, who noted that a lot of time was wasted in the past because of what she called political struggles.
Now, we have entered into this new period from stability to prosperity. Our economy is compared to other cities, we still have a lot of area to work on. I think this is a good time. We need to refocus on development, solve our own structural issue.
Li was among dozens of Hong Kong delegates who met Zhao in Beijing. The senior leader called for unity in Hong Kong to tackle governance and development issues. Zhao, who is the executive chairman of the NPC Presidium, also praised the work of the SAR government. Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Officer Director Xia Baolong was present at the hour-long meeting. Locally, another person has been arrested in connection with the murder of socialite Abby Choi. This came as her mother tried to ban the victim's former father-in-law from selling a luxury apartment on Kadoorie Hill. Macy Mock reports.
Mainland authorities met Hong Kong police at Shenzhen Bayport to hand over a 29-year-old woman. She was taken to a private housing estate above Kowloon Station for investigation. The woman had earlier fled to the mainland, where she was subsequently captured. It is believed that she is a friend of Choi's former husband, Alex Kwong. The woman had allegedly tried to help Kwong flee to Macau by contacting yacht rental agent Lam Shun, who is also a suspect in the case. Lam, who was granted bail yesterday, is accused of arranging a yacht for Kwong's escape for $300,000. Police have arrested 7 people so far in connection with the murder of Choi, whose dismembered body was found in a Taipu village house late last month. 3 people, Alex Kwong, his 65-year-old father Kwong Kao, and 31-year-old brother Anthony, were charged with murder. Alex Kwong's mother, Jenny Lee, is accused of perverting the course of justice. 3 others, the woman sent to Hong Kong today, yacht agent Lam Shun, and 47-year-old Masus Ng, were arrested for assisting in the crime. Kwong's family allegedly lived in a luxury flat on Kaduri Hill, bought by Choi for around $73 million. It's believed that the apartment was purchased under the name of Kwong Kao. The victim's mother filed a writ at the High Court to declare Choi as the beneficial owner and said Kwong was only a trustee. Choi's mother also sought to ban Kwong from selling, transferring, or dealing with the property without her permission. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
An 85-year-old taxi driver has been released on bail when he appeared in Eastern Magistracy charged with dangerous driving causing grievous bodily harm. No plea was taken from Nai Choi Nung this morning, and the case was adjourned to May. He is accused of knocking down 3 people while driving on Fortress Hill Road towards Kings Road on Sunday afternoon. 2 of the victims are still fighting for their lives in hospital. Nai was granted bail of $5,000 and must report to police once a week. He also had to surrender his driving license and all travel documents. A study has shown that young people will struggle to survive if they depend on the new minimum wage when it comes into force. The survey found that youth need to earn around $70 an hour to make ends meet. Janice Lowe has the story.
After a 4-year freeze, the minimum wage will rise from $37.50 to $40 on May 1st. But the amount does not meet the expectations of many youths. A person working 8 hours a day, 26 days a month, would earn $8,320 under the new minimum wage. Lingnan University researchers, however, found that the 400 youths they interviewed spent a monthly average of $16,800, including nearly $2,000 on education. That would mean they would have to earn $71.60 an hour to make ends meet. The researchers said even though the government has rolled out policies targeting young adults, such as the Youth Development Blueprint, youths cannot benefit from the overall measures.
而關於就業嘅一系列嘅勞工政策咧，我哋個團隊一路都係咁樣建議，其實係缺失嘅。
There's actually a lack of employment measures because the minimum wage rate is not related to them, said researcher Pun Ngai. As the city does not have an unemployment protection system, as well as statutory working hours, she said young adults don't consider themselves as beneficiaries of employment protection policies. The researchers added that young adults in Hong Kong are busy all the time. Instead of a full-time job, most opt for freelance work or take up several jobs at the same time. The team urged the government to restore standard working hours so that the youngsters can earn a more stable income. It also said the minimum hourly wage should be reviewed every year. Janice Lowe, HKIBC.
The government has been urged to implement family-friendly measures and improve childcare services to encourage childbearing. This comes after a union found that over 70% of the people it interviewed are not interested in becoming parents. Joanna Ho reports.
Around 74% of about 450 men and women interviewed last month by the Hong Kong Federation of Trade Unions say they do not want a child. Most said this was because of their health conditions, as well as the heavy financial burden and responsibility of raising and educating a child. About 40% believed this could change if the government gives families with children priority for public housing or home ownership scheme flats and increases public housing. The union suggested that officials implement family-friendly policies, such as offering a child education tax allowance to minimize the financial pressure on parents for their children's extracurricular activities. It also recommended increasing quotas in the existing community childcare services and legislating for a fully paid 14-week maternity leave for pregnant staff and 7 days of fully remunerated paternity leave for male employees.
吸引人才又好，人才都好關注佢自己嗰個休息同埋生育。
Kwok Wai-keung, the Deputy Director of the Women's Affairs Committee of the Union, noted that the government is now more focused on measures to revive the economy, such as luring overseas talent. But the lawmaker reminded officials that a family-friendly package for employees is also a crucial incentive in attracting people to come to Hong Kong for work. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Gender equality is still 300 years away, according to the United Nations chief. Speaking on the eve of International Women's Day, Antonio Guterres called for collective action to speed up the process.
The Brazilian beach sport altinha, or highball, has traditionally been a male-dominant game. Until now, like with football, women are now making their mark in the sport, backed by a growing number of schools to advance their skills. But globally, the lack of systemic support to safeguard women's rights, let alone make improvements, is at a risk of regression. Ahead of International Women's Day tomorrow, the United Nations Secretary General issued a dire warning.
Gender equality is growing more distant. On the current track, where Newman puts it 300 years away.
One major reflection is the stark widening of the gender gap in food security. The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, says the number of women who did not have nutritious and enough food in 2021 was 129 million more than men. That was a sharp rise from the 49 million women who suffered from food insecurity in 2019. The number of malnourished women in countries that face food shortages has also increased dramatically.
Housing Minister Ni Hong has expressed confidence that the mainland's property market is on the road to recovery after a turbulent year. He said large housing projects have resumed construction after being stopped because of COVID and falling demand. Wong pledged that the government will ensure projects are completed on time to boost buyer and investor confidence. He noted that after 13 months of negative growth, sales of commercial property rebounded in the first 2 months of the year. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed down 69 points. Top 10 active stocks, Tencent was down $6, and Meituan was down $5. China Mobile was down $1.75. Hong Kong exchanges was down $2.40. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.37, the Canadian dollar is at 5.76. And over in Europe, the London FTSE is currently up 20 points. Onto the weather now. Fine and warm tomorrow, but beware of low visibility at night. The mercury will range between 18 and 25 degrees. Similar conditions ahead of the weekend. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Azam Khan. Good night.